So now we're going to move on to unstructured data. Now, as I mentioned earlier, that data doesn't end at a database. The files that you're working with, that includes images that you're processing, files, text files that you might be using or generating, those are all data. And they fall under the unstructured data category because they don't fit in a relational database traditionally. So now we're going to walk through a few options on how that's managed in Azure. So the Azure Storage account is really the singular place to work with any unstructured data. And no matter what you do in Azure, you're always going to end up having to work with a storage account. It really powers and works with a lot of the tools and services that are within Azure. So there's a chance that you might already have one if you've worked with Azure already. So the Azure Storage account has 5 different ways for you to manage your unstructured data. So the first one is Blobs, and Blob stands for Binary Large Object. And this can be anything from a small little text file all the way to a large like JPEG or image of any format or type. It's a really great way to store any different types of files, and the way that you store them are in these things called containers, so you can actually kind of organize it in a way that makes sense to you. The second is files. And what I really love about files is this concept of this SMB protocol. And what that allows you to do is it allows you to create a file share. So if you had maybe a set of files that you wanted to move and migrate to the cloud, you could create a file in storage account. You could actually do that in the same storage account that you are managing your blobs. And you could create this file share, and what happens is that it gives you a little script that you can use, and this script will actually you copy it and you paste it into your favorite command line tool, and what happens is that when you run the command, it makes a little virtual drive for you that you can actually go and upload any files that you want to it, and then it'll show up in your storage account. Now, the other magic behind this is that if you were on a Windows machine and somebody else who wanted access to your file share was on a Linux or Mac or whatever other machine, the SMB protocol allows them to also be able to set up their file share and able to grab the files that you uploaded. So you could share files back and forth no matter what platform or operating system that you're on. Another option is queues, and it also kind of ties into the idea of like cross-platform communication. A lot of places and organizations really love queues if they have what we call a hybrid setup, where they have on-premise servers that need to be on-premise, and then also maybe some servers or some services in the cloud that need to communicate with each other. Queues are a really great way to just send those messages back and forth. Another option is tables, and tables is like Cosmos DB, uses NoSQL storage, has this key value store system, but it's not as powerful as Cosmos DB. So I wouldn't recommend using it for anything that has any critical data in it. I'd recommend just to use it as maybe experimental, or maybe something that doesn't need a lot of it doesn't have a lot of critical moving parts in it. But if you want something a little bit more powerful that uses NoSQL, I would recommend Cosmos DB. And finally is disks. And disks are specifically for virtual machines, and there is a very wide range and different configurations for the disks that you want to use. So whether it's for storage or what depending on the size of your disk, and also the type of disk you want. So if you wanted something that was a solid state drive, you can actually go for that. Yeah, there's a bunch of different options for your virtual machine if you need a little bit more storage mounted onto your virtual machine. Now, the other cool thing about the storage account is that if you know how to use one of these things in the storage account, so if you understand how to use files, the others are pretty easy to understand as well. And if you need to add any more other integration, like through code, like say you want to write some code or a script to do some automated things, or do some more detailed custom work with any of these, there are a set of APIs and SDKs to be able to write your own custom solutions. And then the other cool thing is that, like I mentioned before, the Azure Storage account is a very, very common service that is used in Azure. So there are tons and tons and tons of samples that can help you kind of give you inspiration or give you an idea of what you're looking for if you're interested in building your own custom solution. Now the data lake is just an extension of the storage account. It's part of the storage account and very, very close to what you would expect in Blob storage. And the difference here is that it's a hierarchical file system, so it just makes it easier for you to get through your files and search, and also has like a large set of integrations such as Hadoop, Cloudera, Databricks, and things like that. So you just have this one central place to store your data, and then you can from there you can kind of use these integrations for whatever you need to analyze or work with Data Lake. So to kind of close out unstructured data in Azure, notice that this was very, very short. We really just focused mostly on the storage account and the data lake, which is also part of the storage account. So you have all these multiple options under this one service. You can create a cross-platform file share. You can store different files of different types with blobs. You can mount your virtual machines with more storage with disks. And queues are great if you need to maybe send some custom messages between different services or different projects that you might have working together. And again, with the data lake, again, part of that storage account, and you can ingest this data from many sources, have it all in this one place. And so it's built into this hierarchical file system. It makes it easier to search. And then you also have a ton of integrations with a lot of open source platforms.